Rain tapped softly against the glass windows of the small apartment as Daniel Carter finished washing the last dish in the sink. The apartment was quiet except for the soft breathing of his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, sleeping on the couch behind him. She had fallen asleep while watching cartoons, her tiny arms wrapped around a stuffed rabbit that Daniel had won for her at a carnival months earlier. Daniel dried his hands and gently carried Lily to the bedroom. "Daddy?" she murmured sleepily. "I'm here," he whispered. She wrapped her arms around his neck for a second before falling asleep again. Daniel tucked her into bed carefully, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're my whole world," he said quietly. For 3 years, Daniel had raised Lily alone. Her mother had left when Lily was barely 3. No explanation. Just a note on the kitchen table saying she needed a different life. Since then, Daniel had done everything, working late hours, cooking, cleaning, and being both father and mother to his little girl. Life wasn't easy, but Lily's smile made it worth it. Daniel stepped out of the bedroom and glanced at the clock. 10:48 p.m. He still had work to finish. Daniel worked as a systems technician for a massive tech corporation called Novatech Industries. It was the kind of company where executives rode private elevators and employees like Daniel fixed servers in the basement. Most workers never even saw the CEO, but Daniel had seen her once, and he had never forgotten that moment. Her name was Victoria Hale, the youngest CEO in the company's history. Brilliant, cold, untouchable. Employees whispered stories about her in the break room. Some said she fired managers without blinking. Others said she worked 18 hours a day and trusted almost no one. To Daniel, she had always seemed like someone from a completely different world, and yet, somehow, their paths were about to collide. The next morning began like every other. Chaos. "Lily's shoes. I can't find them. They're on your feet." "Oh," Daniel sighed. Parenthood was exhausting, but Lily's innocent grin made him laugh every time. After dropping her off at school, Daniel rushed to Novatech's headquarters. The glass skyscraper towered above the city like a monument to power. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Something big was happening. Employees whispered anxiously in the hallways. Daniel reached the IT department where his coworker Mark immediately waved him over. "You're late," Mark said. 5 minutes. 5 minutes during a corporate crisis is like 5 hours. Daniel frowned. "What crisis?" Mark leaned closer. "The CEO is here." Daniel blinked. "Isn't she always here?" "Not in the basement server rooms," Mark whispered dramatically. Daniel turned toward the corridor just as a group of executives walked past. And in the center of them was her. Victoria Hale. Tall, elegant, confident. She moved with quiet authority, her black heels clicking softly on the marble floor. Her expression was calm, almost unreadable, but her eyes were sharp, observing everything. For a brief moment, her gaze met Daniel's, and time seemed to pause. Then she walked past. Just another employee in her building. Just another invisible face. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Why does it feel like the temperature dropped 10 degrees?" he muttered. Mark laughed nervously. "Because that woman controls $10 billion. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A system failure. A serious one. Half the company's internal network suddenly went down. Phones stopped working. Emails froze. Executives panicked. Managers shouted. The IT department scrambled. Daniel sat at the console scanning the system logs. "Server cluster B is crashing," he said. "Can you fix it?" Mark asked. Daniel cracked his knuckles. "Give me 20 minutes. But 10 minutes later, the door to the server room opened. Everyone turned. And there she was. Victoria Hale, standing in the doorway. The CEO rarely stepped into technical departments. But now she was here, watching, waiting. Her calm voice cut through the room. "Who is fixing this?" Mark immediately pointed. "Him." Daniel froze. "Great. Just great." Victoria walked toward him slowly. "Your name?" "Daniel Carter." Her eyes scanned the screen. "How long?" 10 minutes. A brief pause. Then she said quietly, "You have 8. The pressure in the room doubled instantly. Daniel focused on the keyboard, ignoring the weight of her presence beside him. Code scrolled across the screen. Commands executed. Server nodes restarted. Finally, the system lights turned green. Network restored. The entire department exhaled. Victoria studied the monitor silently. Then she looked at Daniel. "Good work." 2 words. But from someone like her, they felt like a promotion. She turned and left. Just like that. But something strange happened. As she reached the door, she paused, then glanced back at Daniel one more time, as if noticing him for the first time. 2 weeks later, Daniel received a message that shocked him. He was being transferred, not fired, promoted, to the CEO's private technical team. Mark nearly choked when he heard the news. "Dude, do you know what this means?" Daniel shook his head. "You'll be working directly with Victoria Hale." Daniel felt a knot form in his stomach. That sounded less like a promotion and more like walking into a storm. That evening, Daniel arrived at the CEO's office floor. The environment was completely different from the rest of the building. Quiet, luxurious, controlled. Victoria's assistant led him to her office. The door opened. Victoria stood by the massive window overlooking the city skyline. Without turning, she said, "Daniel Carter." "Yes." She faced him slowly. "I need someone I can trust with my systems." He nodded. "I'll do my best." Then she said something completely unexpected. "My team sometimes travels for work." Daniel blinked. "Okay. And occasionally," she paused, "we stay in the same hotel suite." Daniel's brain froze. Why would she mention that? He rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Then, without thinking, he asked the question that would change everything. Does that mean we sleep in the same bed?" The room went silent. Daniel instantly realized what he had just said. His face turned red. "I mean, I didn't mean." But Victoria didn't look offended. Instead, she smiled, a rare smile, and her answer would change both of their lives forever. The room fell completely silent after Daniel's question. Even the quiet hum of the air conditioner seemed louder. Daniel felt his face burn with embarrassment. He had worked in the corporate world for years, and he knew how to behave professionally. But somehow, in front of the most powerful woman in the company, his brain had stopped working. He quickly tried to fix the situation. "I'm sorry, Ms. Hale," he said nervously. "That came out wrong." Victoria didn't respond immediately. Instead, she studied him carefully. Her expression was calm, but there was a spark of curiosity in her eyes. Most employees around her acted stiff, rehearsed, almost afraid to speak honestly. Daniel Carter, however, had just asked her one of the most awkward questions anyone had ever asked her. And strangely, she didn't feel offended. In fact, she almost felt amused. Finally, she crossed her arms and said softly, "That depends." Daniel blinked. "Depends on what?" Victoria walked slowly toward her desk, her heels clicking quietly on the polished floor. "On whether you snore." For a moment Daniel just stared at her. Then he realized she was joking. The tension in the room eased slightly. "I don't think I do," he said. Victoria sat down behind her desk. "Good." Daniel hesitated. "Good." Because I hate snoring. A small smile appeared on her lips again. Daniel couldn't believe this conversation was happening. The CEO of a billion-dollar company was casually joking about sleeping in the same bed with him. But then Victoria's tone shifted slightly, more serious. I wasn't actually planning to share a bed, she said calmly. But the hotel suites usually have multiple rooms. Daniel nodded quickly. Right? Of course. Victoria leaned back in her chair. But your reaction tells me something important. Daniel frowned. What's that? You're honest. Daniel didn't know what to say. Most people wouldn't consider accidentally asking their boss about sharing a bed to be a positive trait. But Victoria seemed to think otherwise. She opened a folder on her desk. You'll be traveling with me next week, she said. Traveling? To Chicago. Daniel's heart skipped. Business trip? Yes. Novatech is negotiating a major partnership. Daniel shifted his weight. Why do you need me there? Victoria looked directly at him. Because last month our network was attacked. Daniel straightened instantly. A cyber attack? Victoria nodded. Someone tried to breach our internal servers. That's serious. It is. She slid a tablet across the desk toward him. I want you to monitor the systems personally while we're at the conference. Daniel looked through the information quickly. This wasn't a small issue. If Novatech's data was compromised, the entire company could suffer massive losses. I'll handle it, he said confidently. Victoria watched him carefully. Then she asked a question he wasn't expecting. Do you travel often, Daniel? Not really. Why not? He hesitated. Most employees in corporate environments avoided talking about their personal lives with executives. But Victoria seemed genuinely curious. I have a daughter, he said. Victoria's eyebrows lifted slightly. How old? 6. Single father? Yes. She studied him again. Something in her expression softened. For years, Victoria Hale had built her life around work. Long hours, board meetings, endless responsibility. Family had never been part of her world. But the idea of someone balancing a career and raising a child alone, that intrigued her. Who watches her when you work? Victoria asked.